Okay, so the next step is that we're going to extract all of the individual words from all of these tweets. So let's go down here and create another tab called App Tokens. And we have 150 tweets about Mandrill. So I'm just going to copy that, go over to App Tokens, and let's pretend that we think there's going to be about 30 words in each of these tweets. So 30 times 150 is 4,500. So that should be about how many words there are in this total text. So we're going to have to do a large selection. We're going to select rows 2 through 4,500. And this will take just a second. And notice that I'm actually going to 4,501. So that's row 2 through 4,501. And now if I press Command V or click paste, it actually pastes those 150 tweets across those rows, and it repeats those 150 tweets automatically. So these tweets repeat themselves every 150 rows. So we're tokenizing the text. We're wanting to extract each individual word from the text. So the next step is we need to know where each individual word in the tweet begins. So we know that the first word is going to begin at the first position. So to tell Excel that we're going to start the first word at the first position, we put a 0 here on B2. And we have 150 tweets, so on rows 2 through 151, we're going to drag this 2 down. So I'll drag that down to 151. There we are. Okay. So in cell 152, we need to know the position of the second word. So in order to find that position, we're going to use the find function. We're going to say, hey, find function, go find us the first space that you can find. And when you find it, return to us the position of that space. And that's going to say, okay, and then we can assume like, okay, if there's a space there, that means a word is going to start in just a second. So we need to wrap that in an if error, because if there aren't 30 words in the tweet, we'll start to get errors thrown at us because we assumed that there were 30 words, which is why we made 4,500 rows. So if error and open parentheses, and now I can start using the find function. I'm going to find a space, so two or quotation marks with a space in between, comma, and I'm going to look for that space in cell A152, and I am going to start at the previous place where we were looking for a token, and that was in cell B2 way up above. So we don't care about any piece of the tweet before this position. So that's going to be B2 plus 1, which will be the first character of the word in the last 150 rows. So then I press comma, and actually, before I do that, I need to close parentheses for the find function, press comma, and then now we're going to tell Excel that, okay, if there's an error, what should we return? So find, if find gives us a value, then we'll return that. If find sends us an error, we'll return this. And what we'll return in that case is just the length of the tweet, A152, plus 1. And that's just going to be the length of the tweet plus 1. So that way we don't get an error. Close parentheses, that gives us a 7. And we should be able to send this down the rows all the way down to row 4501, and you can see it's returning the position of the spaces of the last word in the tweet down here, assuming that it has 30 words or less. So in cell C2, I'm going to use the mid function, and I'm going to use cell A2, and I'm going to start at the starting number that we have here in B2, but I'm going to add 1 to that because we're starting where the space is plus 1, so starting position of 1. And then I am going to, for the length of the word, I know the end of the word is indicated by the position down in cell B152, and the beginning of the word is indicated in this position here. So I'm going to take B152, and from that I will subtract B2, excuse me, yes, B2, and then from that I will subtract 1, and that should give us the number of characters how long that first word is. So close parentheses. Now I can't actually do this because I'm making some assumptions here again about the length of the string, so I need to put the if error statement back in here. So if error, do the mid function, and if you do get an error, what do we want to return? We'll return a period, and we'll be able to use that later. Alright, so you can see it took out the word blog. Now one thing that I didn't notice before was that I'm still using the tweets over here on the left that I didn't clean up. So I need to actually copy different tweets in here, because you notice there's still capital letters. I actually just cut and pasted from the wrong column. So I'm going to go over here to column H, and we're not going to lose any of our work. I'm going to copy that, column H, and I will go back to the App Tokens tab, and I'm going to select all of this, and it should change nothing. Actually, maybe I have to go to Paste Special first, paste the values, and see if that worked. And it did. So now we have our cleaned up text, and I didn't lose any of my work. I can send this down the rows on column C, and now you can see we've pulled out each individual word from that string of text. Let's just go down to the bottom to make sure it worked. You can see we've got some periods returned here, because probably most tweets were not that long, but some of them were. Okay, so I'll go back up to the top. So the next step is to know the length of each one of the words. So I'm going to type in cell D2 =LEN, open parentheses, C2, close parentheses, and send that down the rows. And jump down to the bottom, make sure that it worked. It did. The reason we're going to do that, or one of the reasons at least, is that we wanted to be able to throw out short words. So there's this common doctrine among people who are doing data science and naive Bayes and text classification in particular, that you should remove common words. A lot of times they'll call them stop words. So if I go over here to my browser, so here's a list in the Python Natural Language Toolkit. There's a list of English stop words. So removing, so look, you can see there's these pronouns here. So removing pronouns, other common words. Some of them are a little longer, but these are sort of like function words that don't necessarily have any contextual, or they don't necessarily have any meaning unless there's a context to the word. I would say that you don't necessarily always need to remove stop words. You probably should clean up the text, make sure that you put it in lowercase, taking out punctuation and things like that. But a lot of times you're very much interested in prepositions and pronouns because those do carry some psychological significance. We can get into that debate at another time, but if you are interested in that, go read a book called The Secret Life of Prepositions by James Pennebaker, who's a professor here at UT campus. So go back to the Excel file, and we see we have the length of each word here, and we're going to use that, and sort of our way of simulating stop word removal is going to be by taking out words that have 3 or less characters. But for now, what we need to do is create another tab down here, so not called App Tokens, but we'll call it Other Tokens. I'm going to go to my About Other tab, and I'm going to copy all these tweets from column H. I won't make the mistake of copying them from column A again. So copy and select rows 2 through 4,501. And so now I will just paste in those tweets. Don't need to do a paste special, or do I? Yeah, I suppose I do. So I will just keep values only, and let me go down to the bottom, make sure that worked. Zoom back in, and then the next step is pretty easy as well. So I'll go back to our app tokens and select all of those formulas. I don't think we need to do paste special. I'm going to do it anyways, but I'm just going to paste the formulas. And voila, we have our words tokenized, our tweets are tokenized for both the app tokens and the other tokens.